No, if you have recent damage, like if a tree falls, breaks a stone in half, and then it's a fresh break, you can just join it together with practically no preparation, nothing, because it's clean. The surfaces are clean, nothing is eroded, and if you just come back to it, within a month or two, it's generally you could just, you might have to brush the surfaces off or give it a light cleaning and dry it, but you could just join it right together and it'll be a perfect fit. And it'll join nicely, and then there'll be no loss. The longer it sits, when it's open and broken, everything gets eroded, all the edges get eroded and worn away, and it gets diminished, so that it's always worse if time passes. So it's just, prepping each surface. I mean, these are just dirty, they don't have material on them, so you don't want to, do much to it. I'm just trying to clean the surface. I don't want to, diminish it or, round the edges unnecessarily. But see, these are more recent. These don't have repair material. Once you get in here, this was previously broken. So something like this, the thing to do is just clean all the surfaces and then just basically join it one piece at a time. Like you can sometimes get it all up, or sometimes it's better to do a couple pieces and let them start to set up and then continue to build it up. Depending on the shapes of the broken pieces, and depending on if you can clamp it or you're set up to do that. This fits quite nicely, and this is more typical of a repair that there's a little loss, but it basically fits. It basically sits there, and it's a good fit. This is only the first piece, and so a hard mortar is not appropriate on a marble, and it's too thick. I mean, you could get strength out of it. I mean, you can have this all done today. And another thing is, if you don't plan on doing it all at once, you could join a few. If you were working day, somewhat one day, and then you could come back the next day and even continue prepping in place, because it's easier to work on something sometimes, especially if you have to do a lot of chiseling. And so the idea is just to take that off, and it's actually going right through into the stone, even though it's a wood chisel, which is a soft, not a very hard tool. You can tell how soft the stone is. And so, it doesn't come off easily, though. I see what the issue is here. Yeah, it's very thin. And so the thing is, what a lot of time people will do is go on top of it, but then it doesn't quite go together right. So anyway, we should just rinse it off again, and we'll get most of it off. So here you shouldn't go out the edge, or it's liable to chip the edge off. In other words, you shouldn't chisel out the edge, so you should turn around and come in. So like you're working in from the outside, like from this edge, you work in. And also not to go off the edge, to go like along the stone like this, because if you go out, it'll chip it. And so that's the basic idea. So a lot of times there's previous repairs that have been done, and more often than not it's epoxy or some kind of resin, and usually you can't just push and chisel through like this. This material is exceedingly soft. Would normally be used more for a repair material, for a fill material, not for a joining material. The point is, there's another big chunk right there. So those pieces could be holding it up. So I mean, you have to spend more time. It's time consuming. There's no two ways about it. Water usually will show you where there's something remaining, because it will change colors. And so you can also usually feel it, of it. But yeah, if you try to break it, well, you're making a bigger job. And so it's an option, but I don't know what'll happen exactly. So usually you don't re-break things that are solid, that are stable. But with that said, because it's the same looks like the same repair.
Like the same thing. Since that failed, you'd think that this is going to fail next.
It probably will, and I've considered that. But the point is that, I mean, it's not easy to re-break something like that. Same thing with this. Anything with multiple breaks, especially breaks low to the ground, that's thin, needs external support, additional support. There's no if you try to drill into this, it's a fool's quest. There's no advantage to that. You're just going to lose more stone, create more weaknesses, And I mean, there's a time and a place to pin, but it's not on 2-inch thick marble, in my opinion. Then every time they repair, they get diminished, and there's less to work with, and so it becomes more and more difficult to work with them when they're so compromised. That's why you need to do some kind of additional support or something, otherwise they're not going to have much longevity. Again, the only two material, I mean, you could use anything that's not ferrous. So you don't want to use steel because it'll rust. And so aluminum I use because I can rivet it together, and I'll show you how I do that. Stainless steel is good, but I don't have the ability to bend it. This is what I was talking about, external support. Okay? And so the idea is that this acts as a splint and holds it all together. And so, like I said, picturing the stone being up here. Once we fix it, once it's joined and it's up here to give it additional support. And so when you join this up, you make it really tight. And so the way I join this is I drill through here. There we go. With a 1/8-inch drill, all aluminum, so it doesn't rust. Aluminum rivets. So I'll do like one edge first, first I'll dry run it and check on the width. This stuff comes in all different thicknesses, so depending on the stone. But then I would drill one side first, so I would do one hole here, one on the other end, and make it even margin, and then two more. And then I would actually fit it. Then I make it really hold it. The way I do it is I hold it on like this, and then I'll drill the lower hole right in place. And I'll drill through the first outside flat stock until it starts to go into the inner, and then I'll score it enough so that I can take it apart and drill all the way through, and I'll rivet them together, and then I'll come up and do the same thing on the top and make sure it's really good. And if I like it, then I'll add the other two holes, and then I'll just have it all together in one piece, and then I'll use the best silicone made, like 25-year rated, to just fit it right in tight, real snug, tap it in. So if you think that it looks better to go from top to bottom and you don't mind using the extra material at work, then that's fine. But you don't have to do that. Like if this was the only break, you don't need strength up here. It's not really an issue. But so on a stone like this that has multiple breaks and everything, probably best to just go full length. And so, but it works really well. It does not look bad at all because the aluminum is not shiny. That's the only if you bend stainless. If you have a machine shop bend stainless, you don't want to do it with shiny stainless because if it catches the sunlight, it'll reflect the sun and it'll be an eye catcher. So you don't want it to be an eye catcher. You just want it to be flat and you want it to blend in as much as possible. So I mean, for that matter, and I think this might even look worse, I mean, you could paint this also. I mean, you could paint it white, but the stone isn't white. I think this looks better unpainted. And also the beauty of it having unpainted is it'll kind of weather a little and then the paint will never peel. So, but you can do whatever you want. I mean, so maybe you don't have to do that, but this takes about, even for me to do it, it takes usually at least an hour per side. If you're doing it really efficiently, because you have to lay it out just right. You got to drill at least 8 holes per side. You got to rivet it all together. You got to apply the silicone, push it together. So from my experience, to do a whole stone, about 2.5 hours.